So here are my notes on the intro to variables and equations. Our goal after watching this is we will learn basics about solving equations. This lesson should be a lot of review. It should be very easy for all of you watching it, but it will be the basics of what we'll be going over for the rest of this chapter, and honestly the majority of the rest of this year. So it is important to go over. Before we get into any math stuff, let's do some vocabulary words like what is an equation? I say here it's a math sentence that includes an equal sign. That's where the word equation comes from, equal. A variable is an unknown value in a math expression or equation. So if I have 3x equals 6, I don't know what that x is yet until I solve it or find the solution. Which a solution is just figuring out what to plug into the variable to make that math sentence true. So I'm sure some of you already know that x is equal to 2, because when I plug 2 in up here, and I get 3 times 2, it says 6, and it'll say 6 is equal to 6. So now this math sentence is true, or 3 times 2 is equal to 6 is true. We're going to do a lot of solving equations, or getting the variable by itself. Just like this is right here, that's an equation that is solved. And this is done so the solution can easily be read. Because now this just says x is 2, which is easy to read. So first let's take a look at translating some verbal equations into the types of math that we are more familiar with, or algebra. So when I scroll down here, I see a couple different sentences that we're going to translate into algebra, or things that you guys are more used to. For example, A says the sum of x and 4 is 8. Whenever you see this word is, you should think of equal sign. So something is equal to 8. Now it says the sum of x and 4. Sum is one of those words that you have to know. That means adding. So x plus 4 is equal to 8. Now we're going to solve this later on, but that's really all you need to do for this part. So we're just going to practice how to do something like this. So the next one, the difference of 7 and y is, there's that word is again, equals 13. And difference is one of those words that you need to know, means subtraction. So the difference of 7 and y is 13. Now product is another one of those words. It means multiplication. There's a bunch of different ways that you can write multiplication. I want you to write it like this. Negative 2 times p is 24. You could have put the little dot right there. You could have put parentheses around the p. But typically when we have one number and one letter, they're just written right next to each other. And the same sort of thing with d. I want you to write it a certain way. Obviously it equals 5. But whenever we say quotient, that means dividing. Instead of writing that goofy little division symbol, we're going to write it as a fraction. So n divided by 3 is 5. Alright, so hopefully that was some good practice with those. Now that we've practiced how to translate, let's practice doing a very basic skill, plugging in variables. So before we do these, let's revisit what we said a solution is. So back in the front when we talked about what a solution is, it's figuring out what to plug into the variable to make the math sentence. So why is this x equals 2? Because when I plug in 2, it makes that math sentence true. It says 3 times 2 is 6. All right? So let's see which one of these is the solution. Or let's see which one of these I have to plug into here to make this true. Very basic, I know, but once you get to more difficult ones, it is a big skill. So let's substitute 7 in to see if that is true. So if I plug 7 in place of x right here, I end up getting 7 minus 3, which is 4. Now 4 obviously is not equal to 5. So 7 therefore is not or isn't a solution. That is how that works. So 7 is not a solution to this equation, which I'm sure most of you already knew that it was 8. Because now when I plug 8 in, 8 minus 3 is equal to 5, and yes, 5 is equal to 5. So 8 is a solution. In fact, it's our only solution. So what I'd like you guys to do for me right now is pause the video, try these 3 for me, make sure you read the directions. You don't need to find any answers other than for number 3. And then unpause it when you're done to check. Alright, hopefully that was enough time for you to pause it. Let's take a look at number 1 together. The sum, so there's one of those words, and is 12. Sum means add. So they want us to add x, and 7. All right? Again, I see this is, and I see this word quotient. Quotient from the front meant dividing. So I'm going to write my division symbol like that. Equals 16. N and 4. N divided by 4. All right? Last but not least, tell whether 8 or 10 is a solution to this. Obviously, it's 10. Hopefully, we all can do that off the top of our heads. Because when I plug 10 in, I get 10 minus 4 is equal to 6. And that is a true math sentence because this reduces to 6. Okay? So 10 is our solution. Now I start to say on the next page, hopefully you were able to do the last one in your head. If that's the case, you're already solving equations using mental math. Our next chapter is going to be all about solving equations and the steps it takes to do it. But for now, let's just stick with mental math because if we understand what an equation is, it'll be a little bit easier once we have to solve them. So what an equation is a math sentence that's asking a question. It is saying, what plus 4 is 7? That's really all it's saying. And that's what I want us to put right here. What plus 4 is 7? So mentally in our heads, what would I add to 4 to get 7? Obviously it is 3. And if I wanted to check it, I'd just go 3 plus 4, and yeah, that does work out. 7 is equal to 7. So for the next one, I have to take away something from 12 and get 5. So what do I take away? From 12 to get 5. Well, mentally, if I think about all the things that I could take away from 12, the thing that pops in my head is 7. Because if I go 12 minus 7, I do get 5. All right, so moving on to the next one here, we have this 18 equal sign, 3 and a t. So obviously that means 18 is equal to 3 times a letter, or 3 times t. So basically 18 is 3 times what? So 3 times what is equal to 18? That's going to be 6, because, again, 3 times 6 is 18. And the last but not least, I have y over 4 equals negative 5, or y divided by 4, or what divided by 4 is equal to negative 5? So that's a good question. What divided by 4 is negative 5? This one is a little bit trickier. I think you got it. It is negative 20. Because negative 20 divided by 4 gives us negative 5. I have 3 of these for you guys to try. Solve them using mental math. So try not to do it using the techniques that I'm sure you've already learned. Pause it, and then unpause it when you think you got all 3 of them. All right, so hopefully that was enough time for us to try these. I'm going to go through these sort of quick. X is 18. M is 6. And C is 27. All right, so a real-life application of equations, and you've seen these before. We've already done volume formulas. In geometry, there are equations or formulas that help us find characteristics of shapes, such as area and volume. So this actually is what the rest of the chapter is going to be about, but I'll show you some basic ones today. So we have our reference sheet says that the area formula for a parallelogram or rectangle or square is A is equal to length times width. Find the area of a rectangle that is a length of 5 and a width of 12. Just like we have been, let's plug in correctly into the formula. And this should not be that hard. So I have A is equal to 5 times 12. Which, when I do that, obviously my answer is 60. All right? And then example 5, our reference sheet says that a triangle is this. So I have 1/2 6 times 10. Or 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 times 10 is 30. All right? So that's it for these notes, guys. Some final thoughts. We have an equation must have an equal sign. A variable is a placeholder for a number that we don't know. When you solve an equation, you are finding what makes the equation true. The area formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And for a rectangle, it is just base times height, remember. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching.